Opening the September North End Public Safety Meeting. Over the last 30 days, we'll go over some issues some of these may have. Captain, check base, talk about the fees and everything that everything was going well.
Okay. Welcome everyone. This is our first public safety meeting since June, so I'm glad that we're up and running again. It was a very busy summer for everyone, as you probably already know. We tried to reschedule, or try to schedule at least one summer meeting, but between conflicting schedules with the police and events that they had to cover, it just wasn't able to happen. But that's okay. Like I said, we're up and running. And once again, I'm David Marks. I serve as the Public Safety Committee Chair. I'm on the North End Waterfront Neighborhood Council. I wanted to tell you that Captain Fong and I had a really great walk through the North End for about, not to be exact, but for about an hour and 20 minutes a couple Tuesdays ago. We walked up and down Hanover Street, just had some good frank conversations, stopped into some local businesses where, of course, there have been some known issues, or at least issues that people talk about, trying to separate fact from fiction. For example, we stopped into CVS because CVS has been a known business where there have been some incidents of shoplifting. I know there's been incidents where razors used to be taken and then they started to store them behind the register, examples like that. So we spoke to one of the managers and she said every once in a while they do have some shoplifting incidents, but nothing too crazy. I don't think they really have anything that happens that, in their opinion, warrants a call to the police via 911. We stopped into Bova's Bakery, of course, because it is not only a late night establishment, but a 24/7 establishment. Talked to Dr. Bova, who I'm sure many or all of you know. And he actually said he really is thankful for the police's efforts and believes that things are better now, the last few years in particular, than they used to be late at night. I live 1 block away from there. And
he doesn't live here. How would he know?
As an owner or one of the owners of the business, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he's around enough, and I've been living 1 block away from Bova's for the last 17 years, and I'm not going to lie and say that I'm always there at 2 or 3 in the morning, because that's definitely not true by any means. But I really haven't heard or read anything. Nothing comes up in the police blotters and whatnot. But he just believes that good police presence, of course, is key. We also stopped into Cafe Pompeii. Once again, I understand that when we stopped in, it wasn't at 2 or 3 in the morning. We did speak to one of the managers. I believe he told us he does not work the late night shift, so to speak. But, for assuming we can take him at his word, he claimed that things seem to be pretty well, going pretty well. The last time I was at Cafe Pompeii late at night until like 3:30 in the morning was about a month ago, and there was a short line. And while I was in line waiting to get in, it seemed to be pretty well contained. Not like it used to be when I used to go there many years ago. So again, that was only one night, one example, but that's what I saw with my own eyes the one time I went about a month ago. We stopped in a couple other businesses. We stopped into, I can't remember that one, but the one where he's the owner, and we went in the back, he was also cooking. It's changed names several times. It used to be Panza, is it still Panza? Oh. You know which place?
Across
on
the
Hanover
Street.
Still Panza, thank you. We stopped in there, and he told us about a back door at a restaurant across the street that may have been owned by his relatives. And I don't know if there was a relative, but he talked about securing the door or something. And he talked about the issue of the junkies, of course. But
Monica's.
Yes, we talked to Pat from Monica's, of course.
Both sides.
Yes. Did we talk to Frank as well, or was it just Pat?
That's right. We talked to Pat.
Definitely talked to Pat. He came by, and so they're a part of the fabric of this community as anybody. And if they had something to say, they're very vocal people in a good way. And Pat didn't have anything to say, really. That was negative at least.
Park on Prince Street.
Sorry. Oh yes.
Gassy.
The Gassy, of course, we know that there are issues, recurring issues there. So that's really all I have to say. Unfortunately, I will not be able to make next Monday's North End Waterfront monthly neighborhood council meeting, but I will be providing our president, Phil Frateroli, with a committee report that he'll project on our slides and our projection screen. And I will note the walkthrough that I just talked about with Captain Fong from a couple weeks ago, and I will certainly give a report on tonight's meeting. Having said that, thank you again for attending. Once again, unless something changes, first Thursday of basically every month, 6:30 p.m. right here, monthly public safety meeting. Please spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Just by quick way of introduction, Lieutenant Chuck Wilson is here with me, and Sergeant Jimmy Chin, Community Service Supervisor, Teddy Boyle, Community Service Officer for the North End, and Officer Roy Garber, who is the motorcycle officer, local beat officer here on the evening shift. And Matt wanted me to mention that this is being videotaped, just so everybody's aware. This is all being videotaped. So I just want to talk about some of the crime stats, some of the incidents that's happened over the last 30 days, and some of the arrests that have been made. You should have sheets here. If you don't have them, we have copies right here. Take one of each. This covers Part 1 crimes for the month of August versus of 2014 versus 2013. And basically, we've had declines in every crime category compared to August of 2013. One little correction, larceny for motor vehicles, it says 4 occurred in 2014. That's actually 3. One was counted twice. And then we've had an increase in towed motor vehicles, particularly with the student move-ins, some of the fee stuff. We've wound up having to tow a lot of cars, and a lot of 138 moving violations and 298 parking citations. As far as specific incidents, the first one was an aggravated assault that occurred on August 11th at 9:20 a.m. This happened on 65 Atlantic Ave, and the victim reported that they were walking outside of Starbucks, and he was struck by a suspect with a Windex bottle. He knew this guy, Windex bottle, glass Windex bottle, cleaner bottle, and the suspect was located. I believe this was a work dispute. The suspect was arrested in that particular incident. Employees over at 65 Atlantic. And the second of the aggravated assaults was at 185 Fulton Street, and that happened on August 14th at about 11:05 a.m. And this was a dispute between two gentlemen involving pepper spray. Well, there was a dispute between these two guys. One of them utilized pepper spray, one individual against the other. Then they got into a little scuffle, and the individual was treated by EMS for rib pain. Another one refused treatment for the pepper spray. And then the suspect was summoned into Boston Municipal Court for assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon, which is the pepper spray. The suspect was 66 years old. Yeah.
I never turned my back on him.
This season. There was one break-in during this past month. That was at 82 Endicott Street. That was actually in the month of August. We had another last name, I'll talk about that. And in this particular case on Endicott, it was at 82 Endicott Street. The woman reported that she was away for the weekend and her apartment was broken into. When she returned and some pills were taken. And she believes that it was her ex-boyfriend in that particular case. The panel and the door was kicked out. One of the, the wooden door panels, they have the little section was broken out. And that's how entry was made. And then the ex-boyfriend made comments about how easy it would be to break in, and he got a drug issue and all that stuff. So that was a domestic related break-in. So for larcenies, there were 6, that's not counting car breaks, but there were 6 incidents of larcenies. One was at 24 Sheaf Street. That was on August 3rd. And in this case, the victim reported she hired a house cleaner to help do some cleaning. And then she's wound up is missing a gold band with 2 diamonds and a gold rib band with diamonds and a ruby, both valued at $900. And then also the cleaner made some statements that would indicate that she was the one that took them. So the detectives are following up on that case, but that does appear to be the cleaner that stole those items. There was a bicycle stolen, valued at $350 from Cross in Hanover. That happened on August 4th. God bless you. At 233 Hanover on August 7th at about 10:30 in the evening, there was a call at Tresca's, and the victim reported that she was out for dinner with her roommate, and they were seated at a table next to one of the open table seats by the sidewalk, and crowded night. someone comes by, grabs her wallet. In the wallet, she had $150 in cash in the wallet, plus some personal papers and credit card and stuff. We do have a suspect identified in that case, and we're going to be showing the victim a photo array. Hopefully, she'll be able to identify a suspect in that case. On August 9th, 200 Hanover Street, this person reported that her cell phone she put her cell phone down and then her cell phone was stolen. And it also had a credit card's license and some personal papers in that, 200 Hanover Street. And this is, all right, so the original incident happened on July 30th, in this case, at the 7-Eleven at 342 Hanover. A customer went in and he wanted to buy all sorts of cigarettes. They wouldn't sell it to him, then he started ordering up individual packs of cigarettes. He offered to pay with a credit card, that got turned down. He offered to pay with a second credit card, that got turned down. He offered to pay with a third credit card with the name Nancy on it. And they wouldn't take it, so he grabs the stuff and takes off, going on Hanover Street to Cross Street. And so a description was put out. We didn't find the guy. The detectives follow up, one of Chucky's guys followed up on it and spoke with the person. But the credit card, the Nancy credit card, was actually legit, and that helped us identify the suspect. But what was key on this one was that there was video in the store. We put out through the BRIC, which is the Boston Regional Intelligence Center, which is basically the whole Boston region. Whenever we have any crimes that occur, we put stuff out that other agencies might help, or if it helps determine patterns from other surrounding cities and towns. Detective Evans put out a flyer, and that suspect in that case was identified by Revere PD, and we're seeking criminal complaints against that guy in that particular case. That was great work by and Johnny Boyle. This one's on August 29th at 1:49 p.m. The detectives met with 241 Hanover Street. There was an employee who was stealing from the company. Criminal charges are being sought in that particular case, so that's pretty much wrapped up.
Are
And
you allowed to say what the name of the company is, or is that under wraps?
yeah, what is Rico's Restaurant. And yeah, that was an employee theft. And then this one was very recent. This is actually like a September thing, but I just wanted to bring it up only because it happened on the 1st. A woman was moving in to 115 Salem Street, and while she was moving in, she reported clothing and jewelry taken. She had quite a bit of jewelry taken and some clothing taken during moving. So you know how when people, they park their car outside, you can almost time them how long it takes to go up, drop off a watch, come back down, and everything else. And she had her stuff stolen. So, you know, I've seen it happen. It happens here. It happens actually everywhere, unfortunately. You know, moving. I don't have to tell you guys about moving day. So that was something else that occurred. As far as the car breaks, 74 Fulton Street. I'm sorry. 74 Fulton Street. There was a iPhone taken out of a car, but we actually put down. An iPhone was taken out of that car break there. But I'll get back to that one in a second. On August 21st, let me skip that one. Let me find the right report here. On August 21st, over on Prince Street, there was a call for vandalism, and that car wound up being towed. Actually, it wasn't a vandalism. Well, the car was broken into, so that in that case. There was some computer stuff taken, personal papers, sunglasses, and on August 25th at 8 a.m., being of a motor vehicle at 205 Salem Street, and in that case, window was smashed, iPhone was taken, and 205 Salem, that's the same incident. So the first one I talked about, we had an arrest. I don't have the report in front of me, but officer, actually I think I have it in this stack here, and so I'll get to it. But we did have an arrest involving a car break where we grabbed a guy with a bunch of stolen stuff. So I'll actually get to that here in the arrest. So that's it for the crime incidents that we've had. You know, we've had North End's not free of crime, but the stuff that we do have, we've been able to clear a lot by arrest or identify suspects. And thanks to Chucky's guys doing great work, and Roy's always out here every night plugging away. Jenna Cullity does the midnight shift, and then Billy Cohen's here during the day shift, keeping an eye on things. So the guys have been doing a great job. So if you see them and they get, absolutely feel free to stop and talk with them.
Can we have Jenna come to the next meeting?
Absolutely, yeah. If she's free, if she's available, we'll have Jenna come. I would like to introduce Jenna to everybody.
Thank you.
On to arrests. 15 arrests for the month of August. Plus, I have a couple from early September, just in the last couple of days that we've made. Historically, that's a pretty large number of arrests for the North End. I think it's usually probably around 3 or 4 a month, low single digits for arrests. But as part of an overall crime strategy in District 1, we basically put a pretty big emphasis on arrests to just kind of knock the crime numbers down. But we have typically a lot of the crimes that we're getting are the property type crimes. They're stealing stuff, they're breaking into cars, they're doing break-ins to houses and that sort of thing. And a lot of them are heroin and substance abusers. And so, we wanted to kind of put some water on the fire. We're casting the net wide. If we bring a guy in who has a warrant for shoplifting, if we bring in just a guy for trespassing somewhere, if we bring in someone for just minor drug possession, these heroin users or crack users or whatever, they'll be in the cell block. They won't have an opportunity to go out and break into someone's house or break into someone's car or steal something. And so, we've had some pretty good success with reducing some of the larceny numbers in particular, and robberies as well. As far as arrests, just 2 notable ones from late July. 391 Hanover Street. This was on July 24th. This was a vandalism, and this happened about 11:20 p.m. And Officer Kenny Peters, he was in the neighborhood here. He was on Hanover Street, and he observed a suspect in the middle of the street yelling at people. And then he was stopped by some of the people nearby that pointed out that this guy was jumping up and down in cars. So this individual who was intoxicated, strong load of alcohol, was jumping up and down in cars, and Kenny Peters arrested him for vandalism. And I know it's weekend night, 11:20. These kids are just, So anytime we can bring. This was on the 24th, so.
No, that's a 5.
Yeah. And then 170 Salem Street. This was the incident that I wanted to talk about. 170. It ended at 170 Salem Street. This was on July 12th, about 11:10 in the morning. Actually, again, but this is Officer Cullity. So on 11:10 a.m. on Saturday, July 12th, there was a radio call for a suspicious person at 170 Salem Street. The officers arrived. They were met by 2 of the witnesses who said that they thought the guy was going to rob the store there. He was wearing black gloves and a mask. And this is the middle of July, mind you, right? He was the only other person out on the street at the time, and the witnesses pointed him out. So the officers stopped him. He had a black tank top wrapped around his neck, bunched up like a scarf. He had black gloves on. He had a kitchen knife, which was black and silver, in his pocket, which was found during a frisk. And people wouldn't be wearing something obviously like a scarf for that time of year and gloves and whatnot. He was lurking in the area of the Salem Market at 170 Salem Street. He was observed going in and out of the surrounding doorways, ducking in and out. He was like looking around, and it was extremely suspicious. They thought he was going to rob the market. So the clerk, smartly, they locked the door in the market, called us. We went there, grabbed him. So he was arrested for attempting to commit a crime, to it robbery, and we seized his clothing as evidence. And we'll video it together too. So that was a nice bit of work between the business owners and the officers. On to the August stuff. August 2nd at 1 a.m. Officer Cullity, on a Saturday night at 1 a.m., so it's a Friday going into Saturday, they got a call for a guy that punched out a window at 396 Hanover Street, and Officer Cullity, along with Officers Hendricks and Ford and Cody and Detective DeFazio, responded right down, and they observed the suspect. He was bleeding from his hand. He said they stopped him. He said he got mad. He broke the window at the restaurant, and the ambulance treated him for the hand, and he's getting summoned in for damage to the property in the store there. 189 North Street. Officer Cullity again, along with Officers Hendricks and Ford. This was about 4:09 a.m. on a Friday going into a Saturday morning. They got a call for a person that was seen pulling on door handles on cars. You know, people checking on the door handles to see what they can kind of steal. Gave a description. He's kind of black backpack. They saw the guy. They saw a car over at 277 North Street, and that car was ransacked. They're searching the area. Officer Cullity sees him over on Snow Hill towards Prince. She stops him. The other officers arrive to assist. They ask if they can search his bag, and he says he doesn't care. They search it, and inside the bag he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm sorry, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 cell phones, couple laptops, clothing, bunch of sunglasses, bags of coins, and you know, clearly this guy was breaking into cars. And I kind of got a chuckle out of it, because when the officers were speaking with them, he says, I don't have an education, I can't get a job, that's why I do this, this is how I make my money. So the officer says, stealing other people's stuff, that's how you make your money. Yes. Breaking into cars. No, I don't break into cars, I just open the doors and take what's there. So lock your doors. And one of the iPhone stuff that I mentioned earlier was one of these iPhones that were taken in this particular incident. 185 Fulton Street, this was a domestic violence incident. An arrest was made in that particular case. I would have talked about the window cleaner guy, window glass guy, and the pepper spray one, and the 7-Eleven. There was a warrant arrest. This one we were assisted by the park rangers over at the Old North Church on Salem Street. They had a guy stopped who had a default warrant for check fraud, and you know, we work very well with our partners and other law enforcement agencies, the transit police, the park rangers, the state police, and they always help us out. So this was great. And again, get this guy off the street. There's no business being done. He's got a warrant done. 142 Prince Street on August 20th at 11:18 a.m. Officers Dugal and Wozniak, they're our day anti-crime officers. They made 2 warrant arrests for outstanding warrants. Number 1 had warrants for possession of heroin and conspiracy to violate the drug laws, and the other guy out of Malden Court for operating after suspension, failure to stop for a stop sign, and he was arrested as well, and also another warrant for trespassing. These guys were from South Boston and Medford, the 2 suspects. And they're in the pocket. Another drug arrest. This was on August 18th at Commercial and Churchill. This is a sturdy rink in the rear. And this guy had a mason jar containing some marijuana, so he was summoned in to appear in court. That was at 11:30 in the morning.
Can you sell it?
No, he was just charged. He was just charged with possession. This wasn't a fight, and this actually relates to another arrest that occurred yesterday, which I'll talk about. August 18th at 1:14 p.m. crossing Hanover. There was officers responded to a fight on the Greenway over there. 2 men fighting in the middle of the street. Officers went there. They stopped them. They said they were just messing around with each other, but you know, the officers weren't satisfied with that response. So they were both arrested for a fray, which is just basically fighting in the street. When they searched them, one of them had a knife, the other one had a stun gun and a knife. And during the book and search, they found pills, Class C, clonazepam, some other drugs, and those suspects were charged. One was charged with a fray and carrying the knife with a blade in excess of 2.5 inches, which is the law in Boston. You can't carry a knife with a blade longer than 2.5 inches. And then also, the other one was charged with having a stun gun. Those were illegal. Those are dangerous weapons. You can't possess those. And a knife over 2.5 inches in possession of Class A and Class C drugs. And he also had a warrant on it. And I'll get back to that in a second. This other one was a motor vehicle violation from our truck team, Commercial Street, and this guy had a suspended license and he was arrested. 200 Atlantic Ave on September 3rd. So this relates to one of the same guys here. So at about 10 a.m., the anti-crime officers, again, Christopher Columbus Park, dealing with a lot of complaints, obviously, with drug users over there and some other stuff. They watched two gentlemen basically do a drug deal. They went into the Marriott and they stayed there for a few minutes, followed them, stopped the suspects, and they tried to hide from the officers. Ultimately, the officers recovered $902 in cash and quite a bit of heroin. There was 19 bags of heroin, and then 2 additional bags of heroin. And then also we seized their phones and got some pills, and we took their gym bag also. This guy is alleged to have been involved in this other incident with the knife fighting in the street. And we believe that the knife and fighting in the street thing was part of a whole drug deal type thing. And, you know, so this guy, this was a great arrest by the anti-crime guys to get this guy. This guy was somebody that, you know, the officers, he's well known to the officers. Yes, and there is a connection with this suspect with the an overdose that resulted in a death in Faneuil Hall. The guy was shooting up in one of the bathrooms.
Green Dragon?
Green
Yes.
Dragon, and we believe there's a connection there. On September 4th, this was earlier today, Columbus Park, I should say, Columbus Park, Atlantic Ave. Let's see, this was a warrant, arrested this female for a warrant out of New Hampshire for aggravated DWI with injuries. And earlier today also, the drug unit was over here on Hanover Street. They observed 2 guys, that a Hispanic male and a white male, that just kind of drew their attention. They followed them over to Richmond Street. They met up with 2 girls, 2 women. The girls, they did a drug deal. The officers from the drug unit stopped the girls. They admitted to buying 1 bag of heroin. And then we went back, this was down by the 7-Eleven down on the Commercial Street side, stopped both of those guys, and they had 5 additional bags of heroin and $100 in cash. You know, clearly there's some drugs going on, so we're doing our best to clean them up. We've made quite a few arrests, as you can see, relative to the drugs, and this is, you know, North End and the rest of the district, we're just hitting hard. One of the women also had a warrant arrest, and one of the suspects, he's from Dorchester. The white male, he's from Dorchester. He was also on probation, so we contacted his probation officer, and he's being detained now for probation violation. And so that was some good work by the drug unit today. So that's all I have for incidents and arrests. If there's any questions or comments, or yes?
I had a question and a comment. This is, I'm sure part of this was because we had a larger number of arrests than normal, because as Teddy pointed out, it's usually in the low single digits. I want to commend the police for going into such vivid detail about the arrests. Not to say that's never happened at any of the prior public safety meetings, don't get me wrong. But one thing that I saw that's different tonight, compared to the prior meetings, is we have a handout listing the number of arrests by category, classification. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
I have no doubt you'll continue to do that.
Yep.
Secondly, my question is, do you feel, especially given the statistics you just went through with the arrests, do you feel the North End, compared to the rest of the neighborhoods in Area A1, has a disproportionate amount of drug-related arrests? Are you seeing more here than you're
North
seeing in
End
the
is,
other?
I would say the North End The north end is probably about on par with Beacon Hill, maybe, for drugs, yeah. Chinatown, the Midtown area, downtown, Boston Common, those are our big drug areas on the district. I mean, like, just say the Midtown neighborhood, that's really like a block. It's much smaller than north end. We had over 100 arrests there last month. So, I mean, officers made over 400 arrests last month, which is extremely high for District 1. And only 15 of them, you know, were here. So it's 412 arrests last month credited to officers at District 1.
Midtown is considered.
Midtown is the Midtown Park Plaza neighborhood, so that's just over by the theater district over that side. Chinatown had 60-something arrests in that area. Boston Common's always, you know, there's just a lot of stuff going on. But, you know, as I mentioned, we will arrest for, you know, just to get some of these people off the street, and the strategy's bearing fruit. And, you know, we're digging pretty deep in the north end to get some of these drug arrests, but they're out here, so, you know, we get them when we can. And some other sections of downtown, it's pretty blatant, frankly, you know, and, you know.
So you would label this as the lower end of all the district you cover?
I would say so. I mean, you know, Beacon Hill's pretty low. Financial district, not particularly high. West End, there's, you know, some activity over the West End, but that border on West End. Government Center, that part of the downtown crossing, so there's some stuff around there. So overall, North End actually, you know, this is high arrest numbers for the North End, but relative to the rest of the district, it's low, and only because there's not as much.
Well, we had 4 feasts in August, so that
Yeah.
brought a lot of visitors in. And I noticed when you say where these people are from, I don't think you mentioned any of them from the North End. They come to Dorchester, South Boston, they come in and, you know, take advantage of the
Yeah.
fact there's a lot of people there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the feast, by the way, all in all, went over pretty well. We didn't see the, you know, out-of-town kids coming down to start fights. We didn't have any big disturbances. The only one negative thing, we had a laptop stolen at St. Agrippina's. But other than that, overall, you know, the feast went pretty well. The mayor was out there. I saw him carrying the 2,000-pound, and I could tell he was really carrying it too, because he wasn't just like, yeah, oh yeah, he was really carrying it. I could tell he was struggling, so I give the mayor a lot of credit for that.
The problem was he was too tall.
He was
for
too
the other
tall,
people.
right, yeah. If it was me, right, I could have done, oh yeah, it's really, yeah. So yeah, great job.
Sir, yeah, full marks for this, and thank you very much. I used to come to the meetings when Captain Lee was here. This is the first time I've been since you've taken over, so it seems like you're really on the job here. But I wanted to shift the focus a little bit to something much less dramatic, but it's still, I think it's important in terms of public safety in the neighborhood. I live on Charter Street, and right across from the Elliott School. And about 2 weeks ago, I was coming home. I got a bag of groceries at Stop and Shop in Somerville. I drive home. It was just before our festa, so there was no parking anywhere. So I pulled across from our house, and I take the bag inside and just stick it in the door, the single bag of groceries, and I come outside and there's a BTD guy there. And he says, "You got to move this car. Are you going to be taking it?" And I said, "No, I absolutely understand." But I said, "What am I supposed to do? Because how am I supposed to get my..." Anyway, long story short. So we fall into what you might call a conversation.
Friendly
Yeah,
guys.
friendly conversation, yeah. And see, the reason for it is I've had this bug up my whatever for several years, because I live right across from the Elliott School. I have nothing against the Elliott School or the parents, but the parents come there and they park on the sidewalk in front of the Elliott School every morning, every afternoon, and they go into school, and they'll be in there for 2 or 3 hours. And they just abandon their... So I said to the guy, I said, "Look, I'm moving, but I just want you to know, if you ticket me, I'm going to appeal it, because it's not fair. The people who live here can't park even to put a bag of groceries inside, but the people who don't live here and leave their car for hours on there and obstruct emergency vehicles access on Charter Street, you don't ever ticket them." And he said, "You're going to appeal it if I give it to you, right?" And I said, "Yes, I am, but I'm complying with your instructions." I was actually in the car. And he said, "I'm going to put down that you refuse to move," and he presses the button and out was the thing. Anyway, so I went and appealed it, and this is what I was successful in the appeal, but It says dismissed this morning, cannot park on sidewalk for any period of time. All right. These are photographs I took back in 2010. These are 4 photographs of emergency vehicles. You can see in every case, the crew is outside, the drivers are outside the ambulances and fire engines because they can't get past because of school parkers. Here's an ambulance, I got the date and time there. There's an ambulance, there's a fire truck, and here's a truck that was coming for sewer repairs, or gas repairs that were being done on Unity Street. Everybody was afraid there was going to be an explosion. I just happened to take these, and I sent it to Menino in 2010. I never even got an answer. After I got this ticket a couple weeks ago, I called Galuli's office, the BTD guy, and I talked to somebody, Tracy Ganiatsos or something, they're one of his assistants. So I sent her these photographs, and I said, look, I'm not asking for any special privileges, but I think if an elderly person is putting one bag, I didn't go to my apartment or anything, is putting one bag of groceries inside the door, and they shouldn't be ticketed, especially if they live there, and all these other people can just park where they want for hours and nobody ever does anything about it. So I can give you these photographs, but that's my concern. I got nothing against the school, I got nothing against the parents, it's not that. I'm not asking for anything special, but it's not fair.
Yeah.
And it also poses a big risk for these are all ambulances and fire engines that we're trying to get to up to Michelangelo or somewhere up there on Charter Street, and they can't get there. And in every case you'll see they're out of the vehicle trying to find out where are these parkers. So that's my point.
Well, you know, and I don't know what happened in this particular incident with that gentleman, but you know, common sense sometimes dictates.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and that's a different, you know, as you know, that's a different department than us.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
do see Commissioner Galuli, so you know, I will mention that we had this conversation.
Okay, I'll leave you these photos. And like I said, I don't have an axe to grind with anybody,
Yeah, sure.
including the BTD guy. It's just not fair, and it's also a risk to public safety for people who live up Charter.
Yeah, when you
I'm
have
sorry?
no way to park to get out shopping and out, it's really bad.
Yeah, it's I had one single bag from the stop.
Common sense, you know.
I just like 2 minutes, get the bags, and we're fine. We're not doing anything, we're not going to leave, we're not really helping.
And I have to drop my food off in the front door.
That's what we do, we just go front to get it all.
It wasn't Roy though, right? It wasn't Roy at the time. Okay.
Roy wouldn't do that for me.
Maybe there were a couple of other things that mentioned Christopher Columbus Park. But our volunteer gardeners who meet twice a week in the Kennedy Rose Garden will find maybe half a dozen to 10 syringes that have been used the previous night in that rose garden. Oftentimes, it's rare that they don't find some syringes, and oftentimes they find a lot. So you can imagine the arrest count could be driven if any of these people were caught. And what I'm saying is not that I expect those, or, I want that number of arrests, but that I think that there's this looming problem that's growing of some of the drug problem that you've seen in the Common and in Midtown moving into the North End, in particular Christopher Columbus Park. I mean, we had I don't know if it was the same death as the Green Dragon one, but there was someone in the Greenway who was found dead of an overdose. And I'm very concerned. We have volunteers, mainly female, who are locking the Rose Garden up each evening, having to actually shoot people out, which in itself is sort of a dangerous thing. And so there's danger growing on top of danger, and I'm not saying do something about it. I'm just wondering what can be done. This is a jurisdictional area where I know that park rangers and you guys work together. We've been told there are only 10 park rangers in the city, so no one can do anything. So park rangers is sort of like a luxury that we don't think we're ever going to get. So we're wondering what can be done to deflect the curve that we're seeing, because if it keeps going at the current trajectory, Christopher Columbus Park's going to be as bad as the Common.
And so I think we're headed in the right direction. So we're basically sending the message that it's not acceptable what they're doing. And I'll give you an example. In the rear of the Marriott Lawn Wharf, we've had problems with people hanging out there, homeless people, which homeless, drug use. Sometimes that goes hand in hand, right? And we had like 20-something of them there one night. The officer said 40, was really 20-something of them. And he really wanted to lock them all up. The lieutenant said, "Oh yeah, bring them in." But they wound up not bringing in 20 of them because these were some of them were the not so sanitary, not so nice smelling individuals. And that poses, it really does, it poses a health risk to police officers and to people that have to kind of deal with it, with their property and with, all their stuff. So they wound up arresting a couple of them on warrants, which, hey, made good enough. But that did send a message, and we haven't had any other problems with them in the back of the Marriott. So I think that, we're gonna continue hitting it, and we're gonna make the arrests. We're gonna pay a lot of attention to it, and hopefully we can just drive it down. There's always gonna be a displacement issue. We get them out of here, they're gonna go somewhere else. That's just unfortunately, the whole drug and homelessness issue is a massive, massive issue way beyond anybody's reach, to fix quickly. But, we can get them out of here and send a message to them, and as I mentioned, they could have crime and stuff over here, so that's a good indicator of kind of what's going on with the youth.
One thing I wanted to add to that is that, I just think that it might, there may be an argument to perhaps have a task force or some study group to try to understand really what's going on there. We commend your efforts, it's fantastic what you're doing. But I think there are all sorts of weird drivers. Tia's is more noisy and vivacious than it ever has been. I think it masks a lot of more unruly activity that's going on in the park now, because there's this almost this distraction that's constantly going on. There's considering the number of drunken and disorderly people that are typically roaming through the park after that establishment closes, there's very little police presence. And so we're wondering, maybe there are things that can be done. Maybe the restaurants that open so late, maybe they should be helping to fund extra police patrols. We don't know what the answer is, but there's got to be something, because again, you guys have done a good job in making these arrests. But as I've said, there's evidence of so much more crime going on. That it would be great if we could figure out jointly a way to get more eyes on that park before it goes bad on us.
And so in addition to police patrols, I do want to mention that Sergeant Chin has done a great job working with the Pine Street outreach, because obviously a big element is homelessness. So they're trying to get services to substance abuse, mentally ill. A lot of these people don't want to, if you don't have shelter, they'll get you into a shelter. There's services available. Some of these people just don't want it for whatever reason, but the outreach team is reaching out to them, and that's kind of their first bite at the apple. If you do the right thing, try to get into a program, you get the services you need, we'll feed you, clean you, whatever they do, right? And then if they don't, then we'll go in there and then we'll arrest them. If we arrest them for trespassing or whatever it is that we'll arrest them for. So that's working at it on one end. On the other end, about having a kind of a pooled police officer coverage, that is something that we're working on also with the Wharf District, which kind of borders that as well. So the problem with that is that we don't have someone willing to step up, because it involves collectively, from a billing administrative perspective, someone's got to basically be the front guy to take it on, and the lieutenants also, dealing with this on State Street, because it's part of the same crowd. State Street, Waterfront, and that area, Christopher Columbus Park, Tia's, Marriott, that whole area, we're having the same issue. So we are working on that to try to leverage some outside sources to get some additional police coverage in that area. Talk about where we can.
And let us know what we can do.
And the Greenway, actually, they just hired 2 park rangers. They're going to be working different hours during the day to, an evening, and to help alleviate some of the homeless issues there.
They don't have arrest warrants.
They don't, but they have the ability to supplement the police services, and they're trying to work in a partnership with the Greenway, try to post some no trespassing signs and things like that, and maybe we can.
The whole ranger issue is one that we're very confused about, because it's not clear what their powers are and what they can do. From what we've been told, the rangers can't even card someone who has an unleashed dog in order to give a citation. And that's only a job that the police can do, which we feel, you guys have a lot to do. Should you be going and chasing unleashed dogs? Result, unleashed dogs are out of control in the North End. It's more of a nuisance thing that doesn't make the report. But it's a symptom of the fact that, there are some levels of enforcement that just aren't working right now. And if those low level of enforcement, little things like that aren't working, then probably the rangers aren't going to be a reasonable intercept to help the numbers here. So I just think the system and the interconnect may not be as tight as you think it is, and the rangers may not be as leveraged as they should be. And maybe we can figure out
Well,
something.
I mean, they do get the low-hanging fruit, the people that do comply, you know, hey, sir, you know, the dog has a condition, and most people are actually pretty good about it, you know, that they will, you know, if someone asks them. And I've seen it where the police are telling me I can't, you know, it's like giving the guys a hard time, so, you know, we deal with them in
The
different ways.
toughest spots is dealing with a person that has an unleashed dog.
Right, and I get it, I get it.
They want to fight you, or they want you to know who they are.
Yeah.
or-
And
It's pretty
believe
bad.
it or not, that's just not limited to Columbus Park, we get that.
We get that in the Boston Common, we get that on the Public Guide, we get that everywhere.
Well, I'd like to make a comment, and that's the largest number I've ever seen of arrests during a month, whether it's a North End or an outsider. So that's showing some great presence in sending a message. So that's very good. You know, I'm very critical at times.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm very happy to hear that people, not calling 911, are actually staying on the scene and helping you guys respond. That's something. It doesn't happen very much in the North End.
Absolutely,
So,
that's, you know, I mean, that's
it's
great, I mean, there's some,
something to
there's other parts of the city where people, like,
Yeah.
basically don't cooperate with police. And here, the police cooperation is excellent, you know.
By the way, Chuck, that credit card that said Nancy, when are you gonna return it to me?
It was limit, Phil. I used it in Brussels last month.
Little secret life.
Dave?
For those who may have forgotten or are unaware, whether you're in attendance or someone might watch the video of tonight's meeting after the fact, can you please just let everyone know once again what the breakdown is as far as how the North End is staffed pretty much all 7 days a week with the police?
Yep.
Days, times, how many people, streets that are locked, you know, as many details as you can offer, please.
Okay,
Just so
so, so in the north end, the regular day officer is Billy Cullinane, the 30-year veteran of the department, and very experienced, and a lot of people. And Roy's the evening shift guy. He works 4 to midnight, and then Jenna Cullity, she's here on the midnight shift. Jenna's not here tonight. I will make sure, if she is available, I'll have her here at the next meeting. And she, don't let appearances fool you. She's not here, so I can say this, but don't let appearances fool you. She's a tough cookie. I was looking for someone that wanted to do this midnight shift in the north end, and I told them exactly what I wanted, because there's a lot of knuckleheads out here getting drunk, a lot of these idiots walking on cars, and a lot of other stupid stuff going on. And she says, look, give me a chance to do it. She has some of the highest arrest numbers in the district. And as you can see, some of these reports that I talked about earlier, she's locking up people left and right. And sometimes, like you said, we just got to send a message, and I think Jenna has been doing a pretty good job. So.
What are Billy Culline's hours?
I'm sorry?
Sorry, what are Billy Culline's hours during the day?
So 7:30 to 4.
And last question, Jenna's hours are midnight to?
It'll be 11:45 to 7:30.
There we go.
And then, so also, and Richard Wheels from Suffolk is here with us. We have a gang car on Friday and Saturday nights. So there's an additional 2 officers that are dedicated solely for the North End, and they work from 11:45 p.m. to 3:45 p.m. And then and so that's like the dedicated coverage. We'll also have a lot of supplemental coverage, like a couple of these arrests I talked about, plainclothes anti-crime officers, drug unit officers. We have officers from other parts of the city, other units within the city that help us out as well from time to time, whether it's motorcycle officers, gang unit officers, or whatever. Not that there's gang activity, but they help out with general kind of.
I was just going to ask you to clarify for those that may have caught that.
Yeah.
Or may not have gang car, just so people don't get the wrong idea.
So gang car, we call it a gang car. It's not because there's gang activity here. That's our generic term for a 4-hour overtime car that we send into a particular area to handle. Primarily is quality of life stuff, and that's what they're doing. Yes. Yeah, so during the move-in time, and we did have extra coverage, by the way, for the move-in, and I think that went pretty well. We had to tow a couple of cars, and we were working with ISD and Public Works to kind of coordinate the whole move-in thing, and we did have that one theft of stuff from that lady, but overall, we didn't. Yeah.
The university, they would know if there's more this time than happened before.
And I'll defer to Rich on that then.
Yeah.
We're gathering the local addresses now. We'll know by zip code sometime in late September how many Suffolk students are in the North End. And and then all the other
Don't
schools that have
forget,
kids.
the North End isn't only the North End, it's also 109 and 10.
Yeah, we do it by zip code, we'll be reporting all that to the city
Just curious
in
to
October.
see if. Can I ask another question? This has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but every time I cut through, there's a little alleyway between Fulton Street and Church, and then it goes behind our houses from that spot to Richmond Street. Is it legal to park motorcycles there? There's like 4 of them at all given times.
Roy, you parking over there?
You died them out? You can't get anywhere. That's
It's not a street.
I mean,
It's
they're really
not
not,
a
they
street.
have to follow the laws of the
Yeah,
car.
it's an access way, it's not a street.
Right.
There'll be a fire
Fire
department.
lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna call the fire department and
When are they usually out there?
they're there
All day?
all day long.
Oh, during the day shift though?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then at night, sometimes maybe one of them might have, little be a lady and have
Yep.
a visitor, so there's
Yep.
like
So
4
what
of them.
we'll
They're not
do-
noisy, I
Yep.
have to say the truth.
Good.
But I just, feel unsafe.
Yeah, so Teddy, we'll have Teddy, if you can take a look at that, and then, you know, we like to give them a warning if they're kind of locals and stuff.
Yeah,
We'll
I mean,
see if we
they
can run the
probably
plates and
live
see
there,
where,
but
see where they
it's a
live, and just,
fire lane,
we'll let them know,
you
because it
know,
could pose a public safety hazard, so, and if they're, you know, visitors or whatever. One quick note too, just on the walking beat that you have on the midnight shift. The North End does enjoy the luxury of having a walking beat on the midnight shift, because the only other midnight shift walking beat is in the Boston Common area, Boston Common downtown crossing area, and if we don't have someone in the Boston Common at night, it gets pretty rough down there. We don't, I mean, Chinatown, we've had some, probably have seen it, we had 5 people shot. Even Chinatown doesn't have a walking beat, but, you know, clearly, you know, we've dedicated the resources here in the past, and we'll continue to have the resources here, so. And my goal is just to add more officers, not to take away Rob Pete to pay Paul, you know, so that's kind of the direction we're coming from.
Thank you for pointing that out. Rich, just had a quick question. Even though nothing came up in the crime reports tonight, and of course, moving weekend just came and went, did you come across any incidents, any stories, even if it didn't arise to the level of an arrest, as far as any parties that may have involved or did involve some students, any type of riffraff this past weekend, or too soon for that to possibly happen?
Nothing at all. We've had a lot of Suffolk students moving in, but no calls to the hotline, no complaints over the summer actually. It's been pretty quiet. Move-in itself seemed to go pretty smoothly. I was there in the morning into the afternoon, so I don't know if it got worse Monday night, but during the time I was here, I didn't see too much traffic snarl or anything like that.
And as a side note to that, I met with Chief Coletta from Suffolk and his team earlier today, and we talked about, you know, North End in addition to some of their other properties that they have. But what we're going to be doing with them is we're going to be letting them know when we have Suffolk students engaged in, you know, certain activities or whatever, that will flag them. Because, I mean, a lot of these kids, and you know, some of the college kids are, but they're more scared of the college campus police than they are of us, because, yeah, we get them, they go to court, they get dismissed, whatever. These guys, they'll get mom and dad, it's gonna cost mom and dad $40,000, or whatever the tuition is, when they get thrown out of school, you know, so, and just as, like, we arrested a kid in the Boston Common who was a Suffolk student for buying pot from one of the drug dealers over there, and he was a Suffolk student, we passed that on to Suffolk, and, you know, so, you know, this is something we're gonna, you know, keep working on, because I think the sharing of the information between us and Suffolk is going to be key to helping them.
I just wanted to ask Rich, if we've noticed, this may not be true for other parts of the North End, but where we are, we've in the past often had a lot of trouble with Suffolk students, as you know. And yet this summer we've noticed the problem is much reduced from what has been previous summers. Do you have any idea why that is? Because you just mentioned the same thing, I thought.
I think in part it's because anyone who entered the school and has just recently graduated has heard for 4+ years now, this is how we conduct
I think it's
ourselves.
starting to sink in.
Yeah, when you leave campus, you're part of a community, you're not a tourist, which is the shorthand version of what I tell them. So I think it's slowly becoming part of the culture.
Plus,
The Dean of Student Affairs also emphasizes that, and the discipline I think because it's progressive, I think certain people were hitting a point where they were asked to leave, and it had a really good impact overall on people's perceptions of how they should behave.
And community service office, we've been doing the orientations for the new students coming in, or advising them, listen, we're not going to tolerate you partying and disturbing your neighbors, especially in off campus. So hopefully that has a very long-term effect.
One of the things we're noticing, where we back on Charter, we back onto the back of the Hanover Street facing building, is that some of those buildings are turning over and being bought, and they're being upgraded. So I think part of the reason that we've had fewer problems is because they evicted all the tenants when after the building was sold, and they're renovating it. And I don't know if it's going to price it out of students' range or not, but there's a turnover happening on that end of Hanover. It's starting to move a little more toward yuppies than students.
Well, I know 443 Hanover was going to be all Suffolk students again this year.
Oh, is that? Yeah, Fort Fountain Place just was bought. So that was,
The other universities have a similar program? Like if we would come here, students from BU or BC, do you report that to those?
Yes, oh yeah, Northeastern has a very strong program as well.
Emerson, for us, also Emerson, the two campuses we have are Emerson and Suffolk.
That is multi-other schools.
Yes.
We're the best.
I know this weekend there's a concert up the Government Center, 3-day concert.
Yes.
Will we get any extra police presence here in the North End, because they all seem to spill over here during, after?
Yeah, okay. So just so everybody knows what she's talking about, Boston Calling is the name of the event. So Friday night, Saturday from noon to 11, and Sunday from noon to 11. They're hosting a concert on City Hall Plaza. The attendance is somewhere going to be, the full day attendance is somewhere going to be the 11,000 to 15,000 person numbers. So yeah, for the event itself, we have plenty of police coverage that are police details that are paid for by them, but we also will have additional coverage.
Because we get all that spillover, we get it.
We got a lot of spillover. Yep. Saturday, we anticipated doing Saturday, so.
Yeah, let's hope. Thank you.
As you know, Matt Conti's here from NorthEndWaterfront.com, who provides a very, very valuable service. Thank you again, Matt.
Oh, very good.
You know, one of the purposes of having certainly a very comprehensive and always thorough website is it's an opportunity for people to vet whether what they have to say is accurate, can be corroborated, or not. Freedom of speech, I get it. From time to time, sometimes more frequently than others, there will be comments or articles or both about public safety issues. And sometimes you see comments over and over that mention words such as elderly abuse, and men saying, what are the police doing? Elderly abuse, being kept up at night, loud noise, Charter Street, Endicott, whatnot. But then there's never any details. And when I think of elderly abuse, well, that's actually a legal term.
Yeah.
That's not just something that I personally would throw around. Do you have any comments or opinions on that? I mean, I don't hear anything in crime reports that talk about the elderly abuse. I don't, for instance, it's hard to say if one segment of the population, age-wise, is being kept up late at night more so than everyone else that might be 40, 50 years younger. I don't know. Again, that could just be speculation. It could be subjective, not objective. But one question I have, having said that, is should anyone in the North End have any type of reasonable expectation that you, the Boston Police, actually reads any of the comments on our neighborhood website, NorthEndWaterfront.com?
I mean, I don't, and I try to be abreast of all the crime issues and public safety issues and neighborhood issues in all the downtown area. And so, Boston Herald, Boston Globe, Beacon Hill Times, whatever, I read it all. I generally just don't pay a lot of attention to the comments because it's just some of it's, like you said, some of it's kind of, there could be some good stuff and there could be, but just in the interest of time and kind of value, I don't read the comments. But going back to your comment about elderly abuse is a very specific legal term that, as far as I'm not sure what in that reference that how it's used, but for us, it's when a person is taking advantage of an elderly person, or they could be physically abusing them, they could be sexually abusing them, they could be financially abusing them. It's a specific legal term that applies to our elders, and that's, it's like a domestic violence, kind of falls into that category where, like someone's not taking care of the grandmother. We're allowing them to, you know, not be clothed or fed, or they're physically abusing them. So, you know, if I don't mean loud noise legally, there's no distinction for this. There are certain crime categories that are distinct for elders. Like if you commit an assault and battery, if you rob an elderly person, you know, there's specific crimes. But you know, as far as disturbances, I mean, if you're a resident here and you're disturbed, call us, please. 911. That's everybody. You're 2 years old or you're 70 years old, just call us. And you know, the way the law works on disturbances is that a police officer's peace can't be breached. So if we go by a house and they got the radio blasting at 100 decibels, we can't lawfully go up there and say, hey buddy, turn the radio down, because we can't be bothered, we legally can't be bothered by that. If someone calls and says, hey, you know, this guy's got his radio blasting all day and all night, good. Hey pal, what are you doing? Roy goes right over, boom, different, 911, all good. So just, you know, just something to be aware of on that.
Now, Captain, I think that the elderly, especially in this neighborhood, grew up with a thing like, oh, you don't call 911 unless you're dying on the floor. So they tell us, I live next door to 185 Fulton, and inevitably, if I'm out the sidewalk, that's it. I mean, everybody that walks by comes and tells me, oh, that place over there,
Right.
There's always a complaint, you know, because they just don't pick up the phone to call.
Right.
So, in a way, it's abuse, it's a disturbance.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I totally get it. People get, you know, particularly, you know, older people that are getting, you know, they're trying to sleep.
185?
well, that's where I.
They call a lot.
Do they?
They
Well,
do.
all right, then
They
I
do
guess
call
I-
The BHA police is 185. They have their drama over there, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's 185, they have
Well,
some
I mean,
issues
that
over
doesn't
there.
only go for that one building, but I think for the most part, people are afraid, you don't call the police.
Yeah, and of course, you know, we always encourage everybody to call 911 for anything,
Yeah,
you know.
I know you do, but like they just grew up like that.
Yeah.
They're not here at the meeting.
Mhm.
Like that one lady that was here last time we had a meeting, she was afraid to. You know, she said, no, I couldn't have that, I'm afraid.
I want to thank you for kind of making that distinction between, again, fact and fiction. When I hear elderly abuse and I read that online, sometimes 4 weeks in a row, and I'm not exaggerating, I just think that's a very, very specific term. Don't throw that word around loosely. And secondly, I did want to ask you if you or anyone else reads the comments or even just the articles, just because if there's a better way to communicate with the police, not including 911 for a second, I was wondering, is that really the best way? And I had a feeling the answer was no. And that's, I just wanted a
And so,
confirmation that
yeah,
there's a way to reach you personally,
right.
that's different.
And so, anybody that wants my office number, I'll be happy to give it to them. It's 617-343-4238. And the community service office.
617-343-4627.
Wait, can we?
Hold on one second.
Once you have my cell number, but it's 617-343-4571 rings in the detectives. The secretary there is Marilyn. She's excellent. She did Monday through Friday. Marilyn, let us know.
4238 is the last for the captain. And my office is 4627.
So, you know, feel free to call us however we can help you. So like, and, you know, and of course, you know, people feel free to comment whatever they want, but, I mean, if you want to get something done, we need to know about it. If it's generally, 911 is going to be like you say, you know, people kind of like don't feel comfortable. I mean, we encourage people to call 911. Nothing's really too minor, cars really leave parked. Right, yeah, so, you know, if we can spread the word, that'd be great. And then, if there's other kind of issues that aren't kind of as pressing, then, yeah, feel free to call the community service office, my office, or Lieutenant Wilson's office.
Captain, I want to thank all of you. Assuming no one else has any comments or questions or concerns, I want to thank you for one of the best public safety meetings in the 3+ years that I've been attending. Thank you.